Super Rugby Aotearoa round number 8. Blues are travelling down south to face the Highlanders. We'll go through the teams, some of the head-to-head stats, some key players, and the odds for this one. And you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this is going to go. The Blues, in terms of this competition, probably need to secure their spot. They are in second with a 3-2 winning record, but the Chiefs are on a bit of a winning run, albeit they got the Crusaders this week. The Highlanders, with their loss last week in Golden Point, didn't do themselves much in the way of a favour either. Now they're 2 games away from having an even record, so it's not looking too flash for them, but they would certainly like to put a stop to what the Blues are up to at the moment. And yeah, everyone wants to beat the Blues. Why wouldn't you? Gosh, for Auckland. The lineups for this one, the Blues have named a pretty stable lineup. Remember, they're coming off the bye, so it's not like they need to make huge rotations to keep guys fresh. Tu'u-Nukuafe, Tolai, and Tu'ungafasi, that's the same front row. And it's a pretty good front row, especially the props. And they got Laulala and Hodgman on the bench. But look at the scrum stats. The Blues and the Highlanders are equal in terms of having the worst scrums in the competition. Now, some scrum stats can sometimes be a bit deceptive, but still, with that many All Blacks in your front row, I would have thought the Blues would be performing at a higher level than they are. Cowley-Tuioti and Derry are the second row, along with Robinson, Papali'i, and Satutu as the back row. So it's the same 4-pack that ran out 2 weeks ago. Robinson is still captain. Remember, Tupulotu is out injured, so they need someone to stand in, and it is Robinson at 6. Ruru and Black are your 19 combo. Ruru, when he came on in that last game, actually made a really visible difference over Knock. Knock's not even in 23. Christie is the guy who's named on the bench. So, yeah, the Blues still haven't quite found it, as to who's that best 9. Maybe it's Ruru based on that most recent game, but if you'd asked me before the season, I would have said you're mad. But, you know, guys can improve. It happens. Whānau and Ioane are the midfield. Hopefully, Whānau can keep the defensive channel pretty tightly sealed, because that's what his probably the best strength of his game, to be honest. And Ioane is the best going forward. So the two of them together should make a pretty good midfield. There's times when Ioane's defence is a bit leaky in the mid. He's still getting used to that position, but Whānau is a pretty cool customer, so expect him to have a pretty good completion rate. Clark, Talea, and Perofeta are the back 3. I'm not really sure we've seen Clark really ripping it up this season as maybe he has done at times in the past, but again, the more you get known, the more teams do their homework on you and kind of shut you down. The bench has got Akira, Ioane, Bryce Heem's back in, Lala Hodgman, like I mentioned, Plummer's there as well. Yeah, for the Highlanders, a few more changes. They've swapped their props around. Remember, the Highlanders are on a short turnaround because they played the Chiefs on Saturday last week. So this is a Friday game, so it's a really short turnaround for them, whereas the Blues are going to be fresh as. So maybe final 10 minutes will be a difference maker, but that's also why they're making the changes. So Johnstone and Tokolahi start. That means Groot and Hohneck are on the bench. Dixon is still there as co-captain and hooker. Evans and Dickson, the other Dixon, is the locking duo. And Evans has been really good, actually. So there's no Pari Parkinson, unfortunately. He is injured. He injured his ankle in that last game. So that's a bit of a blow for them. But like I mentioned, Evans I've been pretty chuffed with. Frizell, Harmon, and Himeno are the back 3. Frizell, I'll get some of his numbers in a tick, but he's been phenomenal. Harmon is swapping places with Lynchus. Lynchus is on the bench, and they've named only 2 backs on the bench this week. Have the Highlanders. They've got the extra Lucy there in terms of having Mikaele-Tu'u and Lynchus on the bench. It's just Hamilton and Collins covering the entire back line. But they've got Josh Ioane at fullback. He takes the place of Connor Garden-Bishop, who's also injured. He's gone for the season, I believe. So they do kind of have a replacement for 10 if anything happens to Mitch Hunt, who's at 10. Aaron Smith's co-captain at 9. Remember, Fakatava's injured as well, so he's going to have to run the show. He played the whole 80 last week. Hamilton didn't even get off the bench. Gregory and Tomkinson are 12-13. And Gregory, if you watch my Team of the Week video, I thought he was pretty solid, eh? Like, he wasn't spectacular in his game, but he was consistently good. So let's hope he can kind of kick on. Nareki and Punivai are the wingers for the Highlanders. Selby-Rickit's back in as well. I guess with the injury to Parkinson, it means there's an extra spot. Key players for each of these teams. For the Blues, I'm looking at Dalton Papali'i. He hasn't played every game for the Blues, but when you look at the top tacklers in Super Rugby Aotearoa and the Blues having played one less game, Dalton Papali'i is still up there, man. He gets through some huge defensive shifts, and he's been such a threat at the breakdown. He's been getting turnover. So for me, Dalton Papali'i is your key man. For the Highlanders, I would tempted to say like Aaron Smith, but based on current form as well, I would say Shannon Frizell, man. So both Lucy's, one for the Blues, one for the Highlanders. Shannon Frizell, he's got the #1 carries in Super Rugby Aotearoa, so he is hugely busy, up in his work rate. He's the top forward in Super Rugby Aotearoa for defenders beaten, for offloads. He's one of their top line-out takers. The guy is just involved in everything. So he's a key man for the Blues to try and keep quiet. But remember, because he's beating tacklers and he's offloading, it's kind of like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you put 2 men on him, he's going to offload to somebody else who's now got space. Or if you try to just go one-on-one, he may flatten you. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. But it's a good problem for the Blues defensive coaching staff to have a look at, and I'm sure they'll be having a look at it. In terms of the stats between these two teams, they did play in round 3, and the Blues got a pretty convincing win, 39 points to 17. But for the rest of the season, there's been a few areas of concern. The goal kicking, neither side has been phenomenal. Like the Blues are down to 76% now. The Highlanders are at 64, almost 65%, so not the best in terms of their kicking at the posts. The Blues are more of an attacking threat with more clean breaks per game, 9.4 to the Highlanders 7.5. The Blues get over the gain line better with 4.6 meters per carry compared to 3.8 for the Highlanders. Remember, 4 is kind of the magic number. You want to be 4 or above, so the Blues are doing well there. But the Highlanders don't necessarily carry it as much, right? They kick from hand 21 times a game to the Blues 16. So they're going to look, they got Ioane, you got that's Josh Ioane, you got Mitch Hunt, why not, and Aaron Smith. Why not use those kind of playmakers to keep the Blues on the back feet, and other teams as well. Both sides tackling is the lowest in Super Rugby Aotearoa. They're pretty much on a par. Not very good. Likewise, their scrum, not very good, as I mentioned, at least by the stats. One thing that is good for the Highlanders is their line-out. It operates at 90+%, whereas the Blues are at a lowly 83.6%. So, the Blues line-out is an area that the Highlanders may be able to get some joy. How's this one going to go? The bookies have the Blues, despite the fact they're away from home, as favourites. 5 points, say the bookies. However, Rugby Forecast algorithm flips it on its head, and it says the Highlanders with home advantage by 6 points. So, yeah, as a Blues fan, this is a really important game for the Blues to show that they have some metal about them to really come back after a wee bit of a poor run. The Highlanders will be looking to bounce back after a pretty heartbreaking loss last week. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. It is on tomorrow. It's a Friday game. My old man is going to come over and watch this game with me, so we'll be doing a live stream for that one. Obviously not showing the game, but doing a wee bit of a watch along. So if you want to join in, that should be a bit of fun. But yeah, otherwise, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. Like the video if you haven't done. Helps out if you've made it this far. And I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.